Welcome back to the second half of our interview with the former President of Pakistan, General Pervez Musharraf. Let's step back into the journey through his life. Now, President Musharraf, you came to power in a very unusual way. It was almost like an action movie. In fact, I think they can even make a movie. If they make a movie on your life, that will be a very significant part of the movie. Your plane was not allowed to land anywhere in Pakistan. And by the time you did land, you only had 7 minutes of fuel left.
Yeah.
Could you talk us through what happened during that time?
Yes, it was a drama in the air. I was coming from Sri Lanka. And again, I think destiny played a role. I took off from Sri Lanka late because there was a torrential rain there, rainfall. And we couldn't take off because the airport was flooded. That was miraculous. I think had we taken off early, maybe the ground action would not have taken place and I would have been netted by Nawaz Sharif. However, when we approached Karachi, we were down to about 8,000-9,000 feet when the military secretary came and told me that the pilot wants you in the cockpit very urgently. So I was sitting with my wife and I went in and the pilot said, we are not being allowed to land. I said, well, who's saying that? He says that the air traffic controller is saying you can't land anywhere in Pakistan. Get out of Pakistan airspace immediately. So I immediately told them to shut the curtains, because there were a lot of other passengers and children. So that is where the drama started, and they told us to rise to 21,000 feet. When we went up to 21,000 feet, the pilot told me that we can't go out of Pakistan. Initially he said, I did ask him, where can we go? He said one is Ahmedabad in India and the other was Doha. I said, no, I'm not going to, how can I go to India? How can we? I said, let's land. He said, no, we can't land because they put fire tenders on the tarmac. I said, let's go and land somewhere in some other airport. He said, all of them have been, lights are off, blackout in all. So when we rose to 21,000 feet, he said, now we can't go out of the airspace. We don't have enough fuel. We can't go to Ahmedabad and Doha. So there were messages to and from, but I could see that the message that we used to send, the pilot used to take at least about 5 minutes to respond, because I think there was somebody at the air traffic control passing it to somebody else. Later on we found it was the chairman of DGCAA, and he used to ring up Islamabad and get orders from there. So time kept passing, and finally we were allowed to land at Nawab Shah. In between there, the military had taken action, and we were told to return to Karachi by a general on ground. That was the first time that I spoke to him to confirm whether it is genuine. And once I confirmed, then I asked the pilot whether we have enough fuel to go back. He said he has, if I take a quick decision. So I said, okay, decided, turn back. And we landed.
So once again, fate was on your side.
Yes.
I sincerely hope that this trend continues.
I hope
now,
so.
You were an exemplary leader in the army. You always led by example. And then you were the president of Pakistan. Do you feel that, leaders are born, or can these traits be acquired?
Both. I think both. You have to have qualities inherited, or you have it inherent in you when you're born, but then it is acquired during the process also. You acquire these qualities of leadership. You can train yourself to be a better leader. But basic traits you should have. A person who doesn't have it at all can never be trained to become a leader. And leadership is a lot to do with human interaction. I think leadership is you're dealing with your superiors, with your peers, and with your subordinates. This human interaction is very, very important, especially with your subordinates. Real leadership is when I differentiate between commanding and leading. Commanding is done through the weight of your rank, and if I'm a colonel, a major under me has to listen to me. But that is the weight of the rank. The better thing, leading, is when you throw the ranks away, and then everyone is prepared to follow you. That is leading.
That's pure
That
leadership.
is leadership. And for that you can groom yourself, you can train yourself, but you have to have inherent qualities.
In 1965, you were court-martialed for unauthorized leave of absence. You were quite fearless, very headstrong. Do you think that that attitude deterred you later or helped you in your career path?
No, I wasn't court-martialed, I was going to be.
Going to be. The 1965
But
war
the
actually
65
saved
war
you.
saved me.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, I was headstrong in that maybe I couldn't tolerate a weak leader, a weak commander, who was not a leader, as I differentiate. Now, a commander was not a leader. So I used to revolt against such people somehow. I used to start making fun of them, and which used to go against me. I became more sober after marriage, actually.
Yes.
I think my wife contributed to bringing sobriety into me, because she used to tell me, because my discipline record was really bad. I
Lots
would
of red
say.
marks there.
Yes, a lot of fighting in here and there, and indisciplines. She told me, she used to say that you can't, as far as your senior is concerned, you can't break his head. You can give your views, and then you should back out. That he's senior, and it is the onus of decision is his. Somehow I used to take this point of pursuing my thoughts a bit too much. So I became more sober after marriage.
So, President Musharraf, you did a lot for emancipation of women in Pakistan. You banned honor killing. You created more seats in the National Assembly for women. You even created the National Council of Violence Against Women. You did a lot for women in Pakistan. So, where did this concern and love for women originate from?
Firstly, I belong to a home where women, emancipated women, educated women have all been. My mother and my aunties, my old relatives, we come from an educated family where women were treated at par with men. So my whole upbringing. Other than that, I've seen in Pakistan, I mean, the condition of women, unfortunately, they are totally victimized on many. I've always felt very sorry. So all these combined, I thought we have to emancipate women. And also I thought that if a nation has to progress, I think it is the women who have to be emancipated. If we have uneducated, illiterate, backward women, what children are they going to produce? The upbringing of children really suffers because of that. So the quality of human resource quality, I think basically is directly related to the emancipation of women, I believe strongly. So therefore we looked into what ought to be done. And it was my idea, first of all, first and foremost, let's give political empowerment to the women. You said increase the seats in the National Assembly. No, I gave there were no reserved
No
seats.
seats in the National Assembly before.
Not only in the National Assembly, at the local government level. Today, out of the local government union council, out of 13, 4 are women. So 33% seats I gave to women at the local level. And then gave them representation at the provincial level and the national level, other than they're competing and coming. So I politically empowered them. The second was economic empowerment. Let's make them stand on their own feet through education And wherever government is involved, giving them vacancies in government slots, equal pays with men. So all these economic empowerment measures, and then doing away with the laws which were discriminatory against women. You said about honor killing, yes. And Hudud ordinance, which was totally against certain parts of it, which was against, absolutely against women. We did away with that. So, and we were going forward with other measures. So all this I did, yes.
Now, you also, you did a lot for women, but you're also very popular amongst the ladies.
I'm fortunate.
Fortunately or unfortunately, very popular amongst the ladies. Do you feel like women like men in uniform?
Maybe yes. At that time, yes. But gradually, as I see,
Because there's an attraction and power to the uniform.
it used to be a lot, but I think with passage of time, it's decreasing. Maybe it's decreasing. The fashion of military all over the world is reducing. The charm of attraction of uniform in men is reducing. But well, you are a woman, you should ask yourself.
I think women are very attracted to the uniform, Ji.
Well, yes, uniform is great, and I think.
Do you miss yours?
Yes, indeed, and if a person is maintains his own body and physique, then the uniform is beautiful.
Have you still kept yours?
Yes, there are a lot of uniforms, but my units, the units and the division that I've commanded, have been asking for my uniforms, so I have been sending them off. But I still have them, yes.
We're going to go for a short break and we'll return to our interview. See you shortly.